There's always going to be someone that's better than you. There's always going to be someone who has more talent, like raw talent than you. There's always going to be someone with more connections than you. There's always going to be someone that has more time than you. But I think it's important for you to want it more than anyone. That's the one thing that you can control, is how badly you want it.
On the 47th episode of Passion in Progress, singer-songwriter Sydney Rhame. Sydney is a very talented musician, and in this episode we take you behind the scenes of what it's like to be a contestant on The Voice, and more importantly, what it's like after being on a show like The Voice and what that meant for her career as a musician. I'm gonna let Sydney take it away with part of her song, Somehow.
I spent 12 years at this desk with them breathing down my neck. Choose now to pick a path. They said eyes like that. They said go on and figure it out. They said it's right here, right now. They said don't blink or you'll miss out. They think eyes like that. They said sign your name even though it's forced. I won't plan my life without any verse. 'Cause I don't wanna write it all down. I wanna live it all right now. I'll make it work somehow. If I just sing it out loud, I can take up this town. I know I'll figure it out somehow.
What is up, Mercedes? Javier Mercedes here for yet again another Passion in Progress show, where we talk to inspiring individuals, and hopefully through hearing their stories, you too are motivated to go out and pursue your passions. And today on the show, we are in Atlanta, Georgia, with singer-songwriter, artist, and all things that have to do with music, Sydney Rhame.
Let's do it.
You were on The Voice, correct?
Mm-hmm.
How was it? How did you get to getting on The Voice? And wherever you want to start. I'm sure you've told this story many times. For me personally, it's like as somebody that's interviewing somebody, I'm like, here, let's ask you about the thing that you probably get asked about all the time.
Totally. And it's so funny to me because The Voice was an amazing experience. You know, obviously being on national television is kind of cool. People do ask me about it a lot because it's like this amazing thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny because it's been so long since I've done it. I did it when I was 16 and I'm 20 now.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it was honestly something that fell into my lap almost. They have these talent scouts that kind of will reach out to you and just looking for like local talent to go and audition and all that. And I never, ever in my life thought I was going to do a reality show.
The Voice, a reality show? What?
I know, right? I always thought of it as this just... I don't know. It just felt really contrived to me, and I just never ever intended to go on a show like that. Never really even thought about it. But my dad was a big watcher of the show, and he would always save like, "Oh, you got to watch this audition. Oh, you have to watch this one." And I'd be like, "I don't care." But so one day they called and they were like, "Do you want to come do an audition?" So I was like, you know, I was in high school. I was like, whatever. Like all I have going on is like biology. Like I'll just do this. So I went and I auditioned, and you have to go through a lot of different auditions and different phases to get up to the actual show of like doing the blind audition. And it's a lot. There's so much that goes into it that they don't show on TV that really prepare you for the actual audition. So you have to do like, you know, wardrobe and band rehearsals, and you get to do your interviews, and it's like a whole thing. But yeah, I mean, the actual moment of being on that stage and getting to sing for 4 of these amazing, incredible people in the music industry, reality show or not, is insanely cool. And yeah, I will never forget the day of my blind audition. It was like the best day of my life. And being able to say that I was on Team Pharrell is something that I will always like be so psyched about, just because I mean that's cool. And you know, but at the same time, you know, being on national TV, everyone got to see me cry as Pharrell told me, you have to go home now. So yeah, I mean, people do ask me a lot about The Voice because it's something that's so cool, and I'm so thankful for it even today. But yeah, it's hard because it's like, yeah, I do other things now too, and they're like, yeah. Okay, but The Voice.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you were on Team Pharrell on The Voice.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that, but yeah. So it was a great experience, and I'm lucky to have been have been a part of it.
I think one of the interesting things about your audition in particular was there was only like one spot left, wasn't there?
Yes.
It was Team Pharrell, but in the whole grand scheme of things, you were the last person for X amount of time, and like it had to be someone, and it was you, which I thought was pretty cool.
It is cool. You know, it's the whole process is so bizarre. You know, you're whisked away in these little shuttles, and they put you in wardrobe and hair and makeup, and they don't really tell you anything. So I had no idea going into that day that there was only one spot left. I had no clue.
Wow.
Absolutely no idea. And so, you know, you're with 20 other people who are also hoping that they'll get the opportunity to audition, and you're just kind of waiting around. I remember they would just like bring in just like pizzas and pizza. Like, they were like,
that sounds like a great thing to eat right before you're singing.
I know. And of course, like everyone's like a nervous wreck. Like, I don't want pizza. But yeah, so you're just kind of waiting around all day. And so finally, I remember they just put me in like a little car and drove me across like the Universal Studios lot. And I was with my family, because they have your families like flown in, and they strip you of your family. They take your family away from you, and they send them across the lot somewhere, and then they throw you in hair and makeup, and then they shove a camera in your face, and they're like, okay, you're about to do your blind audition, like look nervous.
They tell you to look nervous.
And I'm like, oh my God. I was freaking out. I'm 16 years old. I'm completely alone. I have all these people being like, all right, as soon as the doors open, you're just gonna go out and you're gonna do your song. And it was like, okay, I hear what you're saying, but I'm so beyond scared. But yeah, it was insane. And it's kind of bittersweet, because obviously I was so excited to sing my song and do all of that, but there were also like 10 other people that didn't even get to audition because I did get the last spot.
How about that?
I know. And these people are like my friends at this point. You know, you spent months like preparing and all of this stuff with them.
They didn't even get screen time.
Yeah. And it's so bittersweet.
I would feel horrible.
Yeah, I know. I was so excited. And it's crazy because Pharrell is actually the coach I wanted all along. I was like, I said from the beginning, you know, if I get one chair turn, I'll be fine. I'll be happy. And it worked out exactly that way. But yeah, I had no idea that I didn't even know when I had walked out on the stage and started singing that there was only one spot left. I had no idea until I saw the other judges. Like, I saw Adam and Blake and Gwen getting on their chairs and turning around to look at me. And I was like, oh, they don't have any spots left.
Yeah, what she's referencing is while she's singing, it looks like the other judges want to turn their chairs, but they can't because they don't have any spots left.
Yeah.
So after Pharrell turned his chair, all they did is they actually just like sat up on their knees on their chair to watch her perform the rest of her performance.
Yeah, it was so cool. It was definitely the best day of my life, because it's something that you prepare for. And I mean, it's these little things. I think when you're pursuing anything, it's these moments of affirmation that are like you're doing something and you're on the right path. And just having Pharrell literally click a button just to say like, hey, you know, you have an okay voice.
Just okay.
Yeah. Like it really, even still today, even after, you know, only being on like 2 episodes of that show, like it's something that I am just so grateful for, because it's that reassurance that can keep you going sometimes when you need it.
So you were talking about your voice, and I want to get into that in particular because you started singing so young. I feel like since I watched you at an even younger age than when you were on The Voice, your voice was deeper than what most would expect from somebody of like who you are. And no, but like obviously in a good way.
Yeah.
So at what point did your voice change? Did you just come out of the womb and were you like belting out some amazing voice, or did your voice change at a young age and then you had to adapt to that? In your singing career, how has that played to your favor in all such things?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. Honestly, it's one of those things where I cannot remember a time in my life that I did not want to pursue music. I have, ever since I was 5 years old, ever since I could literally write, I've been writing songs and singing and playing since I was 7. And it's always been something that has just been so ingrained in me. And I couldn't even tell you why. And of course, I did not start out very good. I remember distinctly the very first time I ever performed. I was 7 years old, and it was my little sister's 5th birthday party. She was having a petting zoo party. And I know,
sounds
right?
like a great first performance.
I know, like we've got donkeys, we've got horses, and like sheep and goats, like so the components to a rager. And so I remember it like it was yesterday. I was 7 years old, and I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I had no idea how to play the guitar. I had never sung for anyone but like my stuffed animals and my dogs. And I remember distinctly wearing this 2-piece like pink cheetah print outfit that I thought I looked amazing in.
Sounds on par for the kind of party that you're at.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
Super raging.
Yeah, exactly. Like I just remember getting up in front of just a sea of little kids and just, standing there, not prepared at all. Because when you're 7 years old, you don't really think ahead. You're just like, I just know I'm going to own it with whatever I do. So I get up there and I start just going to town on that guitar, just strumming it and playing it, having no idea what I was doing and just belting it out, making up a song as I go.
And so you didn't even have a prepared song?
No. Picture the pink cheetah print and this huge guitar and just someone who knows absolutely nothing of what they're doing. Yeah. And I just remember in that moment just feeling like I was untouchable. I was on top of the world. I literally am just sitting there, just going to town and just giving it all that I possibly had. Mm-hmm. And whether I was good or bad, I mean, I think we can do the math on that. I think it's pretty clear I was bad. But I just remember in that moment, just knowing that was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Like that, I remember it distinctly, just being so happy and on this like cloud that absolutely nobody could bring me down from. It was just being in that moment. And ever since then, I have put in so many hours and just extra time to be better because it's all, I craved it. And I still do. I still chase that feeling from when I was 7 years old. I still chase that. But yeah, I mean, since then, like I wasn't necessarily a normal kid. Like kids my age would be going out to parties or going to like football games and doing these things, but I would be in a room with a vocal coach, or I would be writing a song, or I'd be playing a show. So I definitely did not start off good at all. Like if you watch old videos of me, like when I'm like 11 years old with my little like gap in my teeth and my mullet hair, like I was terrible.
I love how the adjectives that you've added there, just like mullet hair, because it's great.
I had a full on mullet. But really, I 100%, I did not start off good. And I think it just shows you, just if you really, really care about something, with everything that you've got, you will get to where you want to go. And, that version of me, 7 years old, sounding like garbage, to now, I just feel like I never want to let that little 7-year-old girl down. I never, ever want to give up on that 7-year-old girl, because that's exactly who I am now.
Dare I say it is a passion in progress?
It sure is. Definitely a passion and 100% in progress.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good segue into what you're doing today. So walk me through, because I know you were on tour and other things like that. Walk me through, what does one do after you've been on The Voice? And I guess what I'm most curious about is, what were the 6 months to 3 months or whatever that time period was after The Voice? Like, what did you capitalize on the opportunity there? And what did that look like going into current day?
Yeah. Well, after The Voice, it's honestly anything that's worth doing is a journey. I will preface it by saying that. Yeah. After The Voice, like the second that they were like, all right, you didn't make it through, you're going to go home. I remember it was like one day I was performing in front of Pharrell and Gwen Stefani, and the next day I was sitting in history class in my senior year of high school. Yeah.
How about that for that's powerful.
I know. And it truly puts it in perspective, because it doesn't matter like where you think you are, or where you think like, oh yeah, like I'm on national TV, I'm a big deal. Like, no, I'm not. So after The Voice, it doesn't air for like 3 months. So and you have to keep it completely secret. So I couldn't even say anything.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I get it. So that's what was getting me, was that like you're back home, but other people haven't seen it yet.
No one's seen it.
Makes more sense. Yeah. I was going to say, like, look, man, at least your audition video had like 1.5 million views.
Yeah,
so like there's got to be something there.
I know it initially had 11 million, but they take it off after 2 years. So
okay.
Yeah. So
that makes no sense whatsoever.
I know. Mm-hmm. The thing about my audition is that I was the very last one. So it aired on the very last day. So even as the announcements are coming out, like, oh, I auditioned for The Voice, like, tune in to find out. Like all my friends are like, well, did you make it? I'm like, I can't tell you. You have to just wait. And it was like weeks and weeks, and they were like, well, did you make it? I'm like, just watch. Yeah. So anyways, it airs, and it's this crazy thing because it's overnight. You just get all of these followers and supporters and fans, if you want to call them. And it's honestly, it's so crazy, but it's so humbling because you're like, what? These people actually care about what I have to say or what I do. So from there, I, got a lot of followers, and then I would have like people reach out. And like as far as people in the industry, and a couple things came out of that, like working with certain producers. And just to be able to say that I did that has opened so many doors for me. And I'm super blessed to have gotten to do that, because it's something that is so insane and so special, and the fact that it's captured on TV is just like really cool. But yeah, I mean, it's opened so many doors, and it's the reason I have all the fans that I have right now. It's truly such a blessing.
So music you're making right now, can you explain your process behind, what does it look like? Is it just you sitting at a computer, you working with producers? What does that look like for any song? Okay, well, so I've been writing songs since I was literally teeny tiny, and it's always been a very personal experience. Performing since 7.
Yeah, yeah, killing it since 7. But it's always been such a personal thing. Like for me, I would sit in my room with my guitar, and I would just, belt out whatever came to mind, and then kind of go from there. So it's always been so personal, and that's always how I've kind of created, is like just me being inward and really just doing it that way. But now I signed to a label beginning of last year, which is very cool, Sharon Records. And so right now I'm working on my EP. And so I will go back and forth to the studio a little bit, but it always starts with me in my room writing my song, like playing guitar, writing, and then taking it to the studio and transforming it to a version that's, pop and what I want. So it always starts organically. It always starts with me. And then I have like a team of people that will then come in, and we'll all work and collaborate in the studio. And it's a great creative environment, because I think it needs to be, it needs to be supportive and cohesive. Otherwise it's really hard to be creative when there's people that are, jumping down your throat, which I've been in the past. I can't tell you how many times I've just been sitting in a studio full of all just grown men and just playing a song like that I wrote about some guy in my Spanish class or something, and being done, and then having everyone in the room nitpick it. Like, okay, you need to change this. This needs to be shorter. This needs to be longer. You need to take out this word. This isn't marketable. You sound like this. And having those people in your ear, it has been really hard in the past, to be really authentic. Because I think at the end of the day, creating something is completely yours, and it has everything to do with what you have to say. So now I'm at a place where I'm working with people that get that, and they get that we are creating music that is mine and that is authentic to me. So I feel so lucky that I do get to sit, and I get to be in my room, and I get to be alone, and I get to write songs that mean something, and then take it and collaborate with people that aren't going to change everything about what it is. It like keeps its initial sentiment, and it's really exciting to say that I am working on music that truly means something to me, because it's so easy to get lost in the shuffle of, okay, this needs to be mainstream, or this needs to sound like this, or this needs to sound like that. So yeah, it's a process for sure.
The concept that you're talking about, mainstream, is like such an elusive black box of like,
I know.
So some people could venture to say that it's like, oh, it's on radio and you get sick of whatever's on radio. But just know that like the people that are making the music behind all of the pop hits are very accomplished people, and they can play like virtuoso stuff.
Right.
But to make something quote unquote mainstream is such an elusive beast.
Oh, I know. And that's the thing, is that's what I hate about the entertainment industry as a whole. Like, I love music and everything about creating and doing what I do. I love just writing a song and playing it for people. I just love like the relatability that is music. What I don't love is, being a young girl in the entertainment industry is just absolutely cutthroat. It's that word. It's mainstream. They want you to be a certain way. I've had producers, like, I got bangs one time. They were like, oh yeah, you need bangs, and that'll be what sets you over the edge. I've been put in my fair share of tutus. I have, I've worn this like all white. I've worn this like huge cross, and they're like, no, this is it. This is what's going to get you. And I'm like, oh. And it's so hard, because that's what everyone's chasing. They're chasing mainstream. Like, this needs to be current. This needs to be now. Like, we're in 2019. We need to be 2020. Like, it's insane. And I think it's not productive because that's how we get songs that don't last. Like, back in the day, we had these we had like Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston and all these like huge, huge records. And now, because we're all chasing mainstream, we just have these songs that chart for a couple months, and then a year later, you're like, wait, what was that song even? Like, I didn't, and that's what is so important to me, is making music that I believe in completely. And I think that goes for any sort of creative anything. If you are not creating something that is authentic to you and saying exactly what it is you have to say, then you really kind of need to rethink that, because the public and everyone that listens to you can kind of sniff out when you're not being genuine. And that's something that it's been a struggle, because some people that I have worked with in the past are always saying like, okay, you need to dress like this. You need to post less of this color on your Instagram, or, it's things like that. I haven't heard
that one before, but
yeah. I was told at one point that I posted too much of the mustard color on my Instagram. And I was like, okay, so like, how does this have anything to do with my music? But the fact is that, that is a component of
it's branding.
It is. It totally is. So it's hard. Because all you want to do is create something that matters to you. And when it's being picked apart because it's not mainstream, or it's being picked apart because it's adult contemporary, or it's too edgy or whatever, I think it's when you get to the point where you don't care that you can really make something that actually matters.
Wow, I love how you just said at the end there, because there's another girl that I interviewed, Audrey Ember. She's a YouTuber, and she's a little bit younger in the space, and she's in college, and she's getting a little bit of attraction. Yeah. But I asked her like, what's something that a bit of advice for somebody that's like pursuing YouTube as a young creator, and she was like, just know that nobody cares. Yeah. Like nobody cares. Like, and then once you start doing something, or like, not necessarily that you get that through to your head, but like when you're creating something, you have to be consistent in what you're doing in order for, over a long period of time, in order for people to get the idea of like, oh, this is what this person's about.
Right.
Which, like, if mustard colored is a part of that, then maybe. I'm not sure. It's interesting, though, in terms of branding and all that stuff, because that becomes part of the consistency element of who you are. But I also feel like if you were to see you live, you would get so much more of who your personality is. And I think that's like the main, for me at least, that's like the main selling point of, you can post whatever you want. Right. But then, like, when you see somebody live like yourself, it's just like you and your guitar and your voice.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, like I've said, I've been in these rooms of these all like, older men that are telling me exactly what I need to be like and what I need to do in order to get to where I want to go. And at the end of the day, the only thing I care about is creating music and sharing it with people. It's easy to lose that in the shuffle of trying to be mainstream or trying to get to a certain level and, all of these things. And right now I'm at the point where I've, been screwed over by my fair share of con artists. I have been, made so many promises that have had no follow through. I've cried on national television, like I've been through a few roadblocks to understand now that with all of that stuff, if I can come home at the end of the day and sit with my guitar and play music, that's the only thing I need. Because you kind of get caught up. I went on tour this past summer and I was in the studio like every day and working.
While you're on tour?
Yeah, well, I would go, like, I would do a couple shows, and then I would fly to like Nashville, and then I would like fly to Orlando. It was awesome. And you get kind of caught up, and then
I feel like you are living the most cliche life of a musician.
Oh my gosh, I know, and that's the thing is that when you say, "Oh yeah, I'm a musician," I am in the music industry. People think of it as this like glamorous, crazy, amazing thing, and in a way, sometimes they're right. Sometimes it is amazing. So like sometimes you're in these crazy studios with Grammy-winning producers, and you're like, "Oh my god, I love this." But then other days, you're singing at a pizza place for 5 people, and you're getting paid in pepperonis. It's like with everything.
You definitely have the experience.
Oh yeah. Well, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you have to pay your dues, but also in those moments where you have these amazing things, where you go on national television, you get to be on Team Pharrell, and then you get to go on a tour, and you get to work with Grammy-winning producers. You do have to appreciate those days where you're sitting at home, and, making no money, and you're just sitting there, and you have to appreciate those times when you can just sit and be with what you're creating. And that's something that I've really been remembering. It's almost like I'm really just trying to channel 7-year-old me, like that feeling of being untouchable and being in my music wholeheartedly and completely. That is what I'm trying to get back to, because all sorts of things can happen, tours and, record deals and singles and all this stuff. And it's so awesome and it's so cool and it's amazing. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it can all go away in a second. But what will stay is me and my guitar and my songs.
Boom. Love it. I love how you brought up the 7-year-old you, getting back to that, because I myself, like being a musician and going to the school of music and everything, learning theory and learning all the formalities of music while I was in college, it became a mathematical thing.
Yeah.
And not to say that led to a whole bunch of other different creative endeavors, but I go back and I listen to the GarageBand version of Me and My Friends at Groove Shelter. Look us up on Bandcamp. Groove Shelter. And I listened to one, my lyrics, and then two, like the music that we're playing and just like the chords and all this other stuff. And it's so authentic and raw that I listen to it. I'm like, man, I don't know if I could make something that good. Now, granted, the audio quality may not be good, but the idea of what is going on for those couple songs, those couple CDs that we made is like so authentic.
Yeah. That's so important. And that's something, like I was saying, it's so easy to lose sight of that authenticity. Mm-hmm. Like when I would be in these sessions every day with these people that were like breathing down my neck saying, this song is bad, or this part of the song is bad, and this is bad, and this is whatever. For a while, for months, I had this like awful writer's block where I would come back to my room and I would try to sit there and write how I felt.
Did you ever make a song that was like, this song is bad?
Every day. Exactly. Well, yeah. I mean, it takes that push to get through that writer's block. But I just would sit there and I would hear all these voices in my head. The second I would put like any word on a piece of paper, I would hear someone saying, no, that's not good. That's not going to sell.
Oh my gosh.
Literally, it got to that point. It would be, every idea I would have, I would filter it and edit myself. So I would write nothing down, whereas when I was 7 years old, everything I wrote was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Like in my mind, everything I wrote was sensational. Mm-hmm. And even if it was absolute garbage, no one was going to tell me differently because it was me and it was what I had to say. Even though when you're 7 years old, you're like, I suck my thumb. And
that's a legit song.
I went to, camp today. It was cool. But it doesn't even matter because that was what was true for me. And that's what I had to say when I was 7 years old. And so it was hard for a while because when you are trying to be in that mainstream, you do have to listen to these people that, have been in this industry way longer than you. And I understand on some level that I have so much to learn. But on another level, I have to remember that I don't know absolutely nothing. I have something to offer and I have something to bring to the table. Mm-hmm. And that's something that's so easy to lose sight of when you're constantly being told that what you are creating, something you are creating that is completely yours, is wrong. Mm-hmm. And so for a while, I really did get caught up in like, oh my God, everything I come up with is going to be bad. Or, so-and-so would think that this was too, edgy, or so-and-so would think that this part was too long or that this word was weird or whatever. And it's so easy to get like lost in that shuffle of trying to be what these people are telling you. And so I really have gotten back to the point where I'm 7 years old and I'm in my cheetah print costume and I am creating stuff that feels whole and feels happy and feels complete. And I think it's so easy to lose sight of that. But if you can hold on to that, hold on to the little version of yourself and never let go, because that is something that's going to keep you through when you have absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I think it also, just to relate on video editing standpoint, especially for YouTube videos or just editing videos for anybody else, I have that same voice where, especially in creating my own content, it was even just happening today when I was editing the video that I just posted. I have to sit there and think about my biggest producer, quote unquote, is this algorithm thing called audience retention, which is real people behind it.
Yeah.
But I can, anytime I make a cut or I'm looking at something video-wise, I say to myself, like, is somebody going to drop off at the video at this point? Are they going to drop off right here? And I'm assuming that same thought process comes through when you're making music. But not to keep all things negative, obviously you're working with people that you love to be working with right now. So in the context of people that don't know about the industry, it sounds like, could you elaborate on, if you're in your room and then it sounds like you make the lyrics in the chord structure on your guitar, and then when you take it into the studio, I'm assuming they're accentuating those chords through what we're calling mainstream or pop, but to make it more relatable, but in the way that you want to. Can you explain what that process is and how it looks to what you want it to be now? Yeah.
So obviously I create a song that I have a certain vision for. Usually when I write a song, I'll try it on guitar or piano, just like writing the chords, coming up with the melodies, writing the lyrics, song's done. And I'll take it into the studio.
It's that easy, by the way.
No, it's not that easy at all. But yeah, so then I'll take it into the studio and I'll have like a producer, or like I like to keep it kind of small because I've been in those sessions where it's like 10 people and there's like a plate of chicken wings and half of people are watching the basketball game and the other half are actually working on the project, and it's just a mess. So I like to get into a room with just like 1 or 2 people that kind of understand.
Can you explain to people what like a producer's role in your relationship is?
Yeah. So usually what I'll do is I'll go into the studio and I'll play the song start to finish to my producer. And then we'll kind of talk about the sound that we want. So kind of translating that song into the digital, getting into the computer. And then my producer will have some ideas like, oh, we could do this and that and the other as far as like drums, or like we could have this kind of bass line, or, and then, but I actually am executive producing my album, which I'm super excited about. I've gotten to the point where like people actually trust my opinion and actually value it, which is crazy. It's a crazy concept. But so I will say, this is the kind of idea that I had. So like the other day I was in the studio and I was like, I want this to have really big drums, but I want it to have like these really sweet underlying synths, and I'll kind of give a little bit of guidance as far as the producing side, but I am not so familiar with the producing side. So I kind of like will stay in my lane in that way and just kind of give critiques when I see fit. Because it's good, especially in a creative space, not to step on people's toes or trying to be over like, oh, okay, well, I run this show. I'm going to do this, that,
It's going to be on beats 3, 4, and 5. We didn't even have a beat 5, but we're going to put one in.
Exactly. So I think it's super important to kind of trust the people that you work with and trust that, your opinion is going to get heard. And that's where I'm at right now, is my opinion is heard. And we kind of work together on this like collaborative effort to create a track that I feel proud of, because obviously playing something on your guitar and singing it can only go so far, but actually creating the music around it and putting all these other instruments in and putting all these background vocals and putting in like these extra kind of fine tunes that make it a whole song, it's just it's so exciting. And there's no other feeling like than listening to your track or something like in the car, like when you've got like the speakers on and you're just by yourself and you're like, I made this. And there's nothing like it. I mean, it's so special. But yeah, it's crazy to see the transformation from just me playing something on guitar to going all the way to being a full produced track.
So I didn't know that this was a term, but once I heard it, I was like, oh my God, this is a genius term. So I just interviewed a audio engineer that mostly specializes in drums for metal bands. And he talked about when he brings bands in, they already have their demo and demo-itis. I didn't know that was a thing. So like, so your idea of what your song should be from when you're just, what do you record? Like, how do you record your things these days? Like just for demos, do you just pull out your iPhone and then you just like play your thing so you can like remember it? Or how does that look?
Yeah. Well, if I'm writing a song, I use my voice memos on my phone just to like keep ideas here. Or my label is based out of Orlando, so a lot of times I will write a song and I'll just like record me singing and playing it on guitar on my voice memos and just send it over, and then they can build a track around that. Okay. A lot of times I like to be in the studio when we're creating the track just so I can like kind of guide, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, I definitely rely heavily on voice memos because I always have so many song ideas. So to keep it all together, I keep a nice little folder of my voice memos and it'll be like idea number 491, you know?
Don't lose your phone.
Do not lose it. Well, yeah, and I also have them like backed up.
Okay.
But I actually have a notebook.
Okay.
Which is very old fashioned. And every time I go into a session, I whip out my notebook, I get made fun of. But I have a notebook that I've had it for 3 years now, and I date every song and I like to handwrite.
Wow.
Songs. I know, I guess old
So you're
fashioned.
saying like at some point in time that's going to be in a Hall of Fame, and like,
I don't know
that's
about
going to be
that.
the
It's being
the
held
huge
together by
thing.
duct tape right now, so we will see. But yeah,
That's
so I like
classic.
I like to be able to like flip through and look at the date and be like, oh, on April 20th, 2017, I felt really sad. Or, you know, on this particular day, I was so excited, you know, and it's really nice to have that notebook. And I bring it with me everywhere I go when I am working on music and stuff.
So have you ever had demoitis where you listened to just your guitar and your voice, and then you heard the track in studio and you're like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be?
100%. And
where do you go from there?
Yeah, see, that's the thing is I've worked with so many producers in my, like, I've been working with producers since I was like 11 years old. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy because when you're really young, it's hard for you to articulate, like, this is exactly what I want.
We want more warm.
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep bringing it up because I hate when people say warm. I'm like, everybody wants it to be warm.
Like, right.
Nobody ever wanted it to be cold, okay?
Well, I know, totally. I remember not being able to articulate exactly what I wanted when I was younger. And even still, sometimes I can't really articulate exactly what it is I want. But there are some times where, like, a producer I'll be working with will come up with a track to my song and I'm not 100% sold on it. Mm-hmm. But I've gotten to the point where I can kind of point out exactly why I don't like something, and I'll be like, this needs to be different, without, like, you know, hurting people's feelings and stepping on toes. Mm-hmm. See, that's another thing that kind of sucks about, like, being a young girl in the industry. It's like there are lots of egos when it comes to, like, older men that you have to, like, watch out for. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you, like...
Have you ever worked with a female producer?
I haven't.
Have you ever, like, met one?
I've worked with a lot of female co-writers. Mm-hmm. But I've never worked with a female producer.
Would you ever be interested in doing it?
Oh yeah, totally.
That being said, let's dive into what you have on your Instagram.
Okay.
The producer, your, like, little parody thing for producers.
Oh yeah, I'm very annoying. Yeah, I try to make light of. It's funny because some producers are actually like some producers come in with these big egos, and it's hilarious. Honestly, at this point, it's hilarious. And so I just will be in the studio sometimes, and I'll just pretend like I'm one of them.
Mm-hmm. Can you elaborate on it? Because it's a legit thing. Because especially what I'm making fun of with the whole warm thing.
Yeah, it
happens. So if you're in the booth and you're singing something, what would explain in the way that you would for your IG, okay. Like if you're doing something vocally and then they wanted something from you differently, how would that sound?
Right. Well, I've in the past, like, you know, I'll be in the vocal booth and let's say like they want me to like hold out a note or something, but they won't say it like that. They won't just be like, yeah, hold that note longer. They'll be like, so I want you to hold this note and let it fade like the wind, but also do it like you're really excited, but at the same time, like not too excited, and that like you're someone that a guy could take home to their family. You know, it's like so weird and abstract. It's like, do this like you're really nice, but also like you can get down. You know, like it's just so bizarre. Like some of the instructions that they'll give to you are just like, what?
I completely can know where you're coming from because in my prior job at the recording studio, I wasn't doing that kind of recording. I would assist on some sessions like that, but the bulk of what I was doing was for VO, and I would be the audio engineer while producers and this is for the listeners, it would be the typical like stop by your local Kroger and get the $9.99, or like if you're at the shout out to Tony Manzano, the guy that's like security alert. If you see any bags, the voice over the Atlanta airline. Anyhow, with that comes the same kind of producing. And what's interesting is I feel like there's two schools of thought. There's you're cut and dry and you're like, hold the note longer.
Right.
But some producers just don't do it. They like will not tell you exactly what they want because they want you to have like, I get like at some point, at creative liberty, right? Mm-hmm. But when it's like 2 hours into the session and you're still on the same note, it's like, just tell them to hold the A note.
Right. So exactly. And it drives me crazy. Like sometimes I'll be in sessions and I'll do a take and the producer will not say anything. They'll just start it over. And you're like, am I
what am I supposed to do again?
I know. They'll just be like, start it over. Or like they won't even say anything. I've had people that are just like, you'll do it and then just dead silence on the other side of the booth and you're like, excuse me, and then track starts over again.
We're just like, well, I guess we're doing that again. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. Like it's so funny because when you're creating something like a song or just anything that's creative, like whether it's a painting or some sort of like monologue, there's so many different ways to go about it. And that's what I think is so special about the creative process is that there are so many different people and different ideas and perspectives of ways to do things. But it also is what makes it so hard because there's no clear cut path. There's no like cut and dry, like, okay, we're going to get in the booth. We're going to do this, that, and the other. And then by 2:15, we're going to grab a lunch and then we'll be good. No, it's like
never happens that way.
I know. And it's like either you're in there all day long or, it could be like one take and you're done. You just never know in that. And it keeps it exciting. But also some days you're like, I've been in this vocal booth for 8 hours and I've eaten nothing. So it's one of those things. It's one of those things.
Yeah. Can you talk about singing with, do you still sing with your sister?
Yeah, well, sometimes. My sister she and I are very different. She's definitely more of like the tomboy, like she was like into sports and stuff. And I was always like the weirdo sitting in my room writing love songs about guys I'd never even talked to. Mm-hmm. So getting her to sing with me was kind of a battle at first. But I taught her how to harmonize. And so now we'll like come together and like, we'll just be in the car, like listening to a song and we'll just be like singing and she'll pick a harmony and then I'll pick a harmony and we do it like that. But occasionally.
That's crazy.
I know.
That's talented.
I know. It's like, it's bizarre. And what's crazy is that our parents and our family really isn't musical at all.
Really?
Yeah, not at all. I mean, I always grew up with music playing in the house, which was amazing. And I got to really listen to like all the classics and listen to all this really good music. And, but yeah, I mean, I came up with the idea of wanting to do music completely out of nowhere, just out of thin air. I was like, this is what I want to do. But as far as getting my sister, now I think she's definitely more like cool with it. Like I'll be like, hey, do you want to do like a Drake cover? She's like, yeah, sure.
You want to do a Drake cover?
Yeah, that's what we did last time. We did a little cover. We did like some Drake on my Instagram and,
what song
it's
was
fun. We did Blue Tint.
Okay.
Yeah, great song.
Was it Sicko?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's nice. Like she's at UGA now, so she's not home very often. But when she does come home, I'll be like, sibling cover now. Meet me in my room at 5. Yeah. So it's.
You brought up harmonizing, and to me, especially going back to like going through school of music and everything, I feel like the ear or the brain capacity or whatever that elusive thing is for harmonizing. Yeah. I don't know what it is, but I could sing the melody, but there's just some people out there that regardless of whatever song is playing, they could just hit all of these harmonies. And I'm like, how are you like hitting those resolutions? How do you know it's going to go to that chord?
I know.
You've never heard this song before.
Right. Exactly. And yeah, it's funny because it's like the more you do music, because I mean, music can kind of be a formula sometimes. And so sometimes, especially with like pop music, it does fit a formula. So it's like you can kind of expect where they're going to go somewhere next. Like what note
sometimes if it doesn't like resolve, you could leave me
it's
angry
like
for
physical
days.
Pain. Like where's the resolve?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, it's a skill that you work at and then you eventually are like, oh, it's like second nature, like, breathing.
Yeah. I wish I had the whole harmonizing thing for breathing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's one of those things and it's not easy. And there are some times where I'm like, I cannot find the note and it drives me crazy for the rest of the day. But, it's just the act of doing things over and over. And that's with anything, just doing things over and over and over again. It becomes second nature. And especially for me, doing music since I was literally this high, it becomes so much of who I am. And like, just like picking out a harmony or just like coming up with a random melody or just like, creating a song right there. It's something that it just becomes second nature eventually.
Day to day, and I want to frame this kind of like longer term goals and what you're doing like exactly right now. In your current, like you just woke up today. Yeah. What happened? Like what goes through your head in terms of what you want to do in the future? And what I mean is like, if you're in the trenches and you're going from day to day within one year, like after you look back at the year, you'd be like, oh, I did all this, this, and this.
Yeah.
But then like when you woke up today, was there like any specific thing where like, I want to be doing this by X amount of time? Like, what are you doing day to day in terms of like music? Because it sounds like, yes, this is what you're going to be doing. How does that look for you?
The day to day is honestly difficult when it comes to pursuing something creative, because like I was saying, like there's really no clear-cut path as to how you're supposed to do something. I've always known what it is I want to do, which makes me super fortunate and lucky. I know that I want to play music for people and I want to do it for as many people as I possibly can. But it is hard because it's like, how do I go about doing that? So for me,
super powerful what you just said there. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for me, my day to day, it can be really different. Some days I will like wake up and I will spend hours like working on a song, and then, you know, the next day I'll go to the studio and I will, you know, make it happen, and it's great. Some days I'll play shows. Some days I will really like focus on like my social media and that side of it, which is, you know,
I mean, that's part of being a musician now.
Right, it is. And it's like you're a business. And so you do have to focus on like the 360 view of like the brand and the image.
And the mustard color.
Yeah, and the mustard. But so yeah, the day-to-day is different. It obviously is different every day. And there are some days where I wish I could devote all day to music, but I mean, it's just not reality, you know? Like I do college online, and I work part-time at a retail store because otherwise I would be broke. And I teach guitar lessons. You know, I try to keep things kind of versatile, because another thing about creating something is that you have nothing to say if you don't live your life. So if you, let's say you're focusing all your attention into music, you're doing music every single day, but you aren't living, you aren't seeing people and going out and seeing the world and seeing other people or experiencing things that you've never experienced, you will have nothing to say. And so it's one of those things where I try to take it easy on myself, as far as like, okay, like I worked on this song for an hour, nothing came of it, but it's okay. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to go see some friends, and I'm going to come back to it, and it's going to be the best thing I've ever done, you know? Yeah. So my day-to-day is different every day. And I know that I am actively working toward finishing my EP by beginning of the summer. And so with that in mind, I am constantly trying to create new ideas that can be like honed in the studio when I go. And you know, just trying my best to take it easy on myself, as far as like not being like, okay, this is terrible, or you're not doing this enough, or you didn't spend enough hours doing this part and now you suck. And you know, it's just
this doesn't sound too 7-year-old.
Exactly. and it's hard because it is something that is really, really abstract, like wanting to perform for people on a big scale. Like it's so abstract because there are just so many ways of getting there. There's so many ways, like you can, you know, sometimes it's about like connections, and sometimes it's about, you know, just like one song that sets you over the edge. So it's like, you know, I feel like you take everything with a grain of salt, and you just appreciate the things that you do have right now. So right now I have my guitar, and I can sit in any room and just play it and sing and feel at peace. So it's one of those things where the day-to-day is just always different. And I think it's when you look back that you're like, wow, like I accomplished these things without even really being like, oh, I'm going to do this today. There's always going to be someone that's better than you. There's always going to be someone who has more talent, like raw talent than you. There's always going to be someone with more connections than you. There's always going to be someone that has more time than you. But I think it's important for you to want it more than anyone. That's the one thing that you can control, is how badly you want it. And when it's something that you want with everything in you, it doesn't matter if someone else is better than you. It doesn't matter if someone else has more connections than you. And I think it's just really being in tune with something that you really care about.
Yeah, I like what you said about having life experiences. I had the same exact discussion with another YouTuber that I just interviewed a couple days ago, and we were talking about just being a content creator, right? Yeah. And just creating anything, like you said. If you don't have life experiences, and I like using the example of comedians, like if you're going and you're a comedian, you could be super talented and like, yes, you can make people laugh and everything, right. But if you haven't had life experiences, there's only so much that you can relate to people's circumstances. So when you get up on stage, you may have like a really nice 5-minute bit or something like that. But when you can relate to people and you've had, like, say you've gone to said place, I don't know, some country or whatever, and then you get into a conversation and they're like, oh, you've been to Italy too?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that whole
Exactly.
thing. And then
Exactly.
that then segues into the whole connections thing.
Yeah.
And I like how you pointed that out too, because like they could have more time, connections, or like they could be sitting at a guitar and then they could have all the funds in the world being funneled into their thing. But if you're
That's
not
so
meeting,
true.
if you're not meeting people, or at least talking and getting out there, there's like only so much that you're scratching the surface of.
Oh, completely. What I love about music the most, especially from when I was little, is the relatability of music. Listening to a song, like let's say you're going through the worst breakup of your life, and hearing a song that is a sad song that just basically spells out someone else that has gone through exactly what you're going through and they live to tell it. Like that is the most, to me, it's like having like a pat on the back when you're just all alone, you know, being able to listen to a song that spells out exactly what you're going through. And that's what I love, is just the whole relatability of it. And that's why I love to play live for people, because people will come up to me and like, oh my God, this exact thing happened to me.
Get immediate feedback.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is like, if you aren't living, if you aren't experiencing things fully, if you aren't, you know, taking life by the horns and just grabbing it, you will lose that relatability. And I feel like that's, as people, I feel like that's something that we really strive for, is to feel like we're understood, or to feel like there's someone else that's gone through what we're going through. And I think music does an amazing job at that. When you hear a sad song, or you hear a happy song, or you hear a song about overcoming something, that relatability is just so important. And that has so much to do with living your life and being able to retell these stories.
Yeah. And I think the most important part of it too is that, and I think what we're getting towards is, you can hustle all you want, but if you don't take time to, and by hustle, it's like you're doing something that you love. So it's like, if you're passionate about it, it's like the work is no longer work. It's still play, but it is work.
Right.
But if you don't do something other than that, you're not going to have a different perspective.
Oh,
and
totally.
then everything's just going to sound the same, or you're just going to get burnt out.
Totally. That's so true. I think it's really important to live a well-rounded life, and that's with anything. Whether you're pursuing, like if you're trying to be a lawyer or a doctor or, you know, an actor, like it doesn't matter whether it's creative or whether it's formulaic. Like you need to make sure, at least from my perspective,
Yeah.
you need to make sure that your life is well-rounded, because you never know when whatever it is you're priding your life on is going to be taken away from you. And you have to have that like core confidence within that's like, you know what? I have a great family, or I have this other hobby that I'm super excited about, or I have these friends, or, you know, I have this feeling of I'm going to be okay. Because at least with my experience when it comes to music, I've had, like I said, you know, I've had so many promises made to me. I've had opportunities taken away. I've had so many things that have, you know, been like roadblocks. And while it's easy to sit there and like mope and like, you know, crawl in your mom's bed and be like, oh, everything sucks. And you know, I'm so defeated. I think it's the ability to keep going, because you know that even if you fail, like you gave it everything you have. And if you fail, let's say you fail, it's not the end for you, because you live a well-rounded life. So.
There's two questions I ask everybody at the end of each podcast. And first one's pretty simple. Well, very easy to ask is, why do you do what you do?
I do what I do because I made a promise to a 7-year-old girl in a cheetah print outfit that I would never give up on my music and that feeling of being completely at peace. It's something that I strive for every single day, to feel whole. And that's what music does for me. It makes me feel whole, and relating it with people and playing it for people is something that I love so much. And it's a feeling that I can't even put into words, because it's so special to me, and it always has been ever since I was in that cheetah print costume.
There you go. I love how you're like bringing it back from the beginning of the podcast. Love it. And then second question is to get from where you were, and we'll go with 7-year-old you. So if for anybody with advice wise, going from 7-year-old you to where you're at now, what advice would you give to people if they wanted to be living the kind of life that you're living right now?
It is hard, and I think probably the main thing I would say is there are going to be so many people that are going to tell you what you should be doing, or what you shouldn't be doing, or what you should look like, or what you should dress like, what you should talk like, how you should present yourself. And I think at the end of the day, remaining authentic and remembering your value to a situation is so important because, you know, these people may know what they're talking about. They may not know. But at the end of the day, when you put your head on your pillow at night, you can truly feel like you are authentic to yourself. And I think making sure that you do not let people stifle you and making sure that you do not kind of give in to all of the hype of like, oh, you need to be doing this or you need to be doing that. I think just keeping yourself in a bubble of confidence is just so important because you just never know when someone's going to try to pop it. And yeah, I think just remaining authentic and remembering what it is you have to say is so important because no one else is going to say it for you.
Boom. I would love to see what you say for that question. Like, obviously what you just did right now, but then like just asking the same question to 40-year-old you.
Oh, I know. Oh my God.
Because I feel like if the 40-year-old version of yourself would be very proud of your answer.
It's funny because I often think about, lately especially, I've been thinking about 7-year-old me and wondering if 7-year-old me would be proud of 20-year-old me. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because it's, you know, when you're little, you have this image of, oh, well, by the time I'm 20 years old, I'm going to be doing this and I'm going to be wearing this and looking like this and I'm going to be so successful and so blah, blah, blah. And it's so funny because it's so subjective, like success. And it's funny because like 7-year-old me, I think would be proud of 20-year-old me because I am still pursuing that thing that I have always wanted to do. So hopefully 40-year-old me would be like, good work. You did it, bud.
Awesome.
You didn't, yeah. So
where can people find you?
They can follow me on Instagram, Sydney Rhame.
Can you spell it for them?
SYDNEYRHAME.
Boom.
And they can follow the journey.
Awesome. And then is there any place where your music is specifically?
It's on all platforms, so Spotify.
You're like, yeah, it's just look me up. I'm there,
yeah,
okay, Javier?
No, yeah, they can find me on all platforms, and I should be releasing a new single within the next 2 months. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is there any specific song that you have right now that you want them to listen to? Or?
Yeah, I released my song "Look Good Together" last April, and that I love that song. I think it embodies exactly who I am right now. And yeah, so you should go check it out.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. It's available on all platforms.
It sure is. It sure is.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate it.
Awesome. If you want to share out this podcast, you could tag Javier Mercedes X. That's JAVIER MERCEDES X. I never had to spell out my last name, but then I realized there was a lot of people that didn't know how to spell Mercedes.
And there's a lot of E's in there.
Yeah, and I said one too many E's. Maybe edit it. No, I'm just going to keep it in.
You just keep it. I think be authentic.
There we go. Until next episode, live that life of abundance, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Don't forget to leave me a review on iTunes.
Try to fit us all in. It's like, do this and then you sink or you swim. It's like, odds are that you'll never win. They think it's like that. But I see my name in flashing lights, leaving all their words behind. Somehow I'll change